English podcast. Anutin today officially became Thailand's 32nd Prime Minister. In his inaugural address, he outlined his ambitious 4-month agenda for national transformation. He emphasizes his commitment to the Thai people, asserting that his position is not due to any special favors, but rather their trust. The Prime Minister pledges to address 4 critical areas: the economy, national security, national disasters, and social threats, including drug trafficking and human smuggling. Anutin also commits himself to amending the Constitution, ensuring no interference in the justice system, and dissolving Parliament within the stipulated time frame of 4 months, and vowing to work tirelessly without respite. No weekends, no family holidays. He has pledged to work around the clock with his cabinet. So this is something to look out for, and let's get down into what he actually said and what it means in this explainer. Hi, let's get down into a presentation of what Anutin said today.
Welcome to Suthichai Live Explainer. So today, we're going to talk about something pretty extraordinary. It's the first press conference from Thailand's new Prime Minister, Anutin Shanvarakul. And let me tell you, this was not your typical political announcement. He laid out this incredibly ambitious and honestly kind of wild plan to fix the country's biggest problems. And here's the kicker. He put a deadline on it. And that deadline, just 4 months. I mean, think about that. Not 4 years, 4 months. He and his entire cabinet have promised to work with not a single day off. No holidays, no breaks, nothing. Just pure focus on these critical national crises. You can practically hear the clock ticking, right? So the real question is, what can you actually get done in such a short, intense sprint? So to really get why there's this huge sense of urgency, you got to hear it in his own words. He's framing his entire time as prime minister not as some kind of political win, but as a debt he owes to one group and one group only, the Thai people. You know, a single statement like that really sets the tone for everything else he's planning. All right, so how do you even begin to tackle a task this big? Well, he's broken it down into 4 key parts. First, we'll look at this whole idea of a 4-month premiership. Then, we'll dive into the 4 major crises he's focused on. After that, we'll talk about the vow of independence he's made. And finally, the end game, the path to new elections. Okay, first up, a 4-month premiership. We've got to unpack this idea, right? Because this is not a normal term of government. It's really being framed more like an emergency response. The whole mission is to just work nonstop, use every single resource, and pull the country out of the crises it's facing. It's a super high-stakes, all-in approach right from the get-go. But what are these crises they've sworn to fix? And that brings us right to the next part. The 4 critical crises, the nation's most pressing threats. The administration has really zeroed in on 4 huge challenges, things they're calling direct threats to the daily lives of the Thai people. These are the 4 pillars of this whole 4-month agenda. And we're going to start with the one that hits everybody in the wallet. So, crisis number 1, the economy. The plan here is kind of two-sided. First, they want to immediately cut down the financial pressure on everyone by lowering costs, things like energy and transportation. At the same time, they want to go after debt, especially for farmers and people with lower incomes, and also roll out ways for businesses and communities to actually make more money. Okay, next up, the agenda turns to national security. And here, they're really focused on the border dispute with Cambodia. It's a tricky balance, right? They're aiming for a peaceful solution to avoid any loss of life, but they're also drawing a hard line, not giving up a single centimeter of Thailand. And a really cheap piece of this is a promise to get compensation out faster to citizens who've been affected by all this. All right, from national security, we pivot to another big threat, natural disasters. And this is an area where Anutin is leaning on his past experience as Minister of Interior. The promise is to beef up the warning systems. And this is huge. Make sure that when a disaster does happen, the victims get their compensation fast. It needs to be fair, it needs to be reasonable, and it needs to cut through all the red tape that caused delays in the past. And the fourth and final crisis they're targeting is what they call social ills. We're talking about a major crackdown on, well, the whole shebang. Drug trafficking, human trafficking, all those online scams, illegal gambling, you name it. But here's what's really important. This isn't just something they're tackling inside Thailand. The plan is to work hand in hand with neighboring countries because they know you have to go after these problems right at the source. All right, so that's the what. Those are the four crises. Now let's get into the how. We're moving on to a vow of independence. Because if you're going to act this fast, you have to build public trust, right? So the prime minister laid out some really clear principles that he says will guide every single decision his government makes. And this quote, this might be one of the most important promises he made. He's speaking directly to a major public concern here. Anutin has vowed his government will operate strictly by the rule of law, period. He said there will be zero interference in the justice system, letting it do its job independently, just like the Constitution says it should. And you can see here, they're laying this out in really clear black and white terms. On one side, you have the promise, rule of law, transparency, and equal justice for everybody. And on the other side, they're flat out rejecting the alternatives, things like ruling by force, going after political opponents, or meddling in legal stuff. It's about as direct a message as you can get about how they plan to govern. Okay, so you think solving 4 huge crises in just 4 months would be the endgame, right? I mean, that's a massive job, but it's not. This brings us to the final piece, the path to new elections. According to the plan, all this incredibly hard work, it's all just setting the stage for something even bigger. A complete political reset for the whole country. And here it is, the ultimate goal. This whole 4-month sprint is designed to lead to a 4-step process that basically resets the entire political landscape. Step 1, get a constitutional amendment going. Step 2, set up the process for a brand new charter. Once that's underway, step 3 is to dissolve the current parliament. Yep, all inside that 4-month window. And that leads to the final, most important step. Returning power back to the people and paving the way for a new election where they decide the future. So let's just recap for a second. We're talking about a 4-month non-stop sprint to fix the economy, solve a border dispute, handle natural disasters, and crack down on major social problems. All while starting the process to rewrite the Constitution and call a new election. I mean, the scale and the speed of this agenda are just staggering, which leaves us with a huge question, doesn't it? Is this a brilliant political masterstroke for maximum impact, or is it just an impossible mission? Thank you for following Suthichai Live Explainer.
Thank you, Ping. And let's get Ping and Pong together to really go into detail of what the new Prime Minister of Thailand said. Try to look deep into his promises and analyze whether they are just pure rhetoric or some serious attempt at winning the public's trust, really. Let's get down into it. Ping and Pong.
Okay, let's unpack this situation in Thailand. Imagine, taking the reins of a country and immediately, right out of the gate, declaring this 4-month sprint, tackling the biggest crises, promising no days off. The question isn't just what this new leader plans, but, well, how this kind of timeline, this intense pressure, might actually reshape things. And that's the dramatic entrance of Thailand's new Prime Minister, Anutin. So today, we're doing a deep dive into PM Anutin's agenda. It's ambitious, to say the least. We're looking at what he laid out in his very first press conference, September 7th, 2025, right after his appointment. We've gone through his statements, news analysis, all of it. And our mission really is to pull out the key nuggets for you. We want you to quickly get a handle on his vision, which is clearly urgent, the challenges he sees, and this incredibly bold timeline, so you can understand what this moment really means for Thailand. I mean, can such an aggressive sprint actually work for deep-seated issues? Or is it? Well, political theater, let's find out. So let's start right at the beginning, that first address. What was the immediate impression?
I mean, beyond the expected gratitude to His Majesty the King for the appointment, his message felt layered, didn't it?
It really did. He acknowledged several limitations, which is quite frank for a first address.
Yeah, and then pledged to work untiringly, dedicating all physical and mental energy. Standard stuff, maybe.
But then came that line, I did not come here by anyone's patronage except the patronage of the Thai people through their representatives. That's what it invented.
Very pointed. And he's specifically thanked the People's Party, the major pro-democracy movement, for their initial temporary support.
Right, framing it as providing an exit for Thailand in that specific moment before they went back to being the opposition.
Exactly. And then, of course, thanking his actual coalition partners by name. Klatam, Palang Prakarath, New Democracy for forming the government. So what's the strategy behind that strong no patronage declaration, especially given Thailand's, let's say, complex political patronage systems?
Well, that's a really crucial distinction he's drawing there. In a system where power, historically, has often been linked to specific influential figures or, institutions, explicitly rejecting patronage is quite a bold opening statement.
It really is.
By saying his power comes solely from the people via the representatives, Anutin is trying to sculpt this image of independent legitimacy, popular accountability, right from day one.
So positioning himself above the usual fray.
Precisely. It's a strategic move to seem like he's directly answerable to the electorate, not beholden to hidden forces. And how he framed the People's Party role, that temporary exit idea, that's clever too.
How so?
It lets him acknowledge their help initially, which was significant at the time, without actually tying his government to their platform long term.
Ah, okay. While clearly naming his current coalition partners as the foundation.
Exactly. It's a very delicate political dance, isn't it? Trying to bring different groups together under his leadership while constantly emphasizing that popular mandate.
That really does lay bare the careful positioning. Now, this urgency isn't just talk, is it? It's backed by this incredibly tight deadline he set himself. A 4-month sprint. Not just tackling challenges, but aiming for significant changes. He actually pledged that he and his cabinet would work without holidays, no vacations, and if possible, no sick days for these next 4 months.
Wow.
He even said, no holiday, no day off to rest with family, except for body's needs. I mean, that's an almost punishing level of commitment.
It really is. And it immediately raises the question, why? Why such an intense, compressed timeline for a brand new government?
What do you think it signals?
Well, it screams crisis, doesn't it? An almost unprecedented sense of urgency and a deep desire for results people can see now.
So projecting decisiveness.
Yeah.
Overcoming that perception of government slowness.
Exactly. Overcoming any perception of bureaucratic drag that might have affected previous administrations. It's a way to just hit the ground running full speed.
But pressure must be immense.
Immense. On everyone. And delivering effectively that quickly. That's the challenge. Plus, he stressed that cabinet members have to be experienced, ready to go. No time for a trial period, he said.
Right. They need to start working efficiently immediately after the oath.
And that 4-month time frame, it keeps popping up. It's not just about working hard. It connects to big goals like constitutional reform, even dissolving parliament. We'll get to that.
It's like he sees governing as a sort of political triathlon.
Yeah.
An all-out sprint right from the start.
That's a good analogy. But it begs the question, doesn't it? Is it actually achievable for problems that are deeply rooted,
or is there a risk of just making surface-level changes, or maybe burning everyone out, the government, the public, with this relentless pace?
That's the gamble, the feasibility versus the powerful symbolism of the sprint.
That's a critical point. So, okay, he's got this clear mandate, this almost frantic timeline. The big question for everyone watching is, what specifically is he aiming at? He didn't mince words. He laid out 4 critical areas he says are deeply affecting daily life in Thailand. Let's start with maybe the most immediate one for most people, the economy. On the economy, his plan seems very focused on quick relief.
Right.
And supporting the base.
Absolutely. Urgent measures to cut daily expenses, the cost of living, that's front and center.
Things like energy costs, travel, transport fees, stuff people feel directly.
Exactly. Tangible costs hitting individuals and businesses. And then there's addressing debt, especially for farmers and low-income earners. That's huge.
Plus measures to boost income for entrepreneurs, for the general population.
And critically, he emphasized strengthening local communities, calling them the foundation of Thai society.
So this multi-pronged approach, the quick relief, the focus on local communities, what does that tell us about his economic strategy for this 4-month blitz?
Well, it's not just broad stimulus. It feels very strategically grassroots.
Meaning?
By targeting farmer debt, helping low-income groups, boosting local areas. He's trying to stabilize the base of society.
Yeah.
A demographic that often feels left behind by those big top-down economic plans.
So the insight is, prioritize immediate visible wins for a crucial part of the population.
I think so. That could build significant public goodwill for his fast-paced agenda, even if the really complex structural economic changes take much longer.
Makes sense. Very practical promises designed for immediate impact, hitting close to home for many ties. Okay, so that's the economy. Moving from domestic issues, the second crisis area touches a sensitive nerve: national security. Specifically, that ongoing border dispute with Cambodia.
Right. Always a delicate issue.
He pledged peaceful approaches. The main goal, he said, is reducing losses for citizens on both sides of the border, which sounds conciliatory. But he also drew a very firm line, reaffirming the principle: Thailand will not lose even 1 square centimeter of its territory. That's pretty unambiguous.
Definitely not ambiguous.
And he also committed to prompt compensation for affected Thai citizens in border provinces, even acknowledging some delays in the past.
Acknowledging past delays is interesting.
So what's the balance he's trying to strike here between the diplomacy and the firm national stance?
It looks like a classic two-pronged approach, doesn't it? On one hand, yes, peaceful resolution, minimizing harm, that's key for regional stability, good neighborly relations.
Standard diplomatic language.
But on the other hand, that not 1 square centimeter line, that's pure national sovereignty talk. It reassures the Thai public and sends a clear signal externally, a firm stance.
And the compensation part.
Acknowledging those past delays is smart politics. It directly addresses grievances in those border areas, shows he's focused on practical help for people actually affected. It builds local trust.
So peaceful talks are the aim, but national interests are paramount and will fix past mistakes.
That seems to be the message, yes. A delicate path.
A careful tightrope walk indeed. Okay, third crisis. Natural disasters. This is a constant challenge for Thailand, obviously. And it's an area where Anutin actually has direct experience from his time as Interior Minister.
And that's relevant background.
He pledged to speed up the management of disaster warning systems, saying he'd leverage that past experience, having initiated similar efforts before, and also promised rapid, timely, reasonable, and fair compensation for victims. Again, emphasizing speed and fairness.
Speed and fairness and compensation are always huge issues after disasters.
He stressed there would be no operational stops or obstacles in getting this done. Again, referencing his familiarity with how the Interior Ministry works. How much does that prior experience really add weight to these promises? Does it make them more credible?
I think it lends significant credibility, yes. He's not just talking theory here. He's presumably drawing on practical knowledge of the actual systems, the bottlenecks, the challenges involved.
So he knows where the problems might lie.
Potentially, yes. And the focus on speed, fairness, robust warnings, that's a direct, practical response to something that affects people deeply and often triggers strong public feeling. His emphasis on no operational stops suggests he intends to cut through red tape that might have slowed things down before.
So it's a promise based on firsthand understanding that does carry weight. Okay, finally, the fourth crisis area, social problems. He promised a serious crackdown here. And the line was interesting. Illegal drugs, human trafficking, sure, but also scammers, gambling, and pointedly, online gambling.
The inclusion of online gambling and scammers is very contemporary.
Right. And he specifically stressed cooperating with neighboring and friendly countries to tackle these threats.
Yeah.
Why the specific mention of online gambling and why the focus on international cooperation?
Well, this really highlights how these social threats have evolved, doesn't it? Especially scammers and online gambling.
Also,
They aren't just local crime issues anymore. They're often transnational, run by sophisticated networks operating across borders. Think call centers, online platforms.
so they can't be tackled just within Thailand.
Exactly. Relying on international cooperation shows a recognition that these modern problems demand a bigger regional approach. You need alliances, shared intelligence, joint law enforcement to really dismantle these operations.
So it connects to a bigger picture of modern borderless crime.
Precisely. It shows an understanding that these challenges transcend national borders and require collaborative solutions.
Okay, a comprehensive approach to modern crime, too. Now, moving beyond those immediate crises, Anutin also made some really crucial pledges about the foundations of governance, justice and constitutional reform. These are massive topics.
Absolutely fundamental.
What did he promise here? Especially given Thailand's recent political history, these are sensitive areas.
Yeah.
On the justice system, he made quite a powerful statement pledging no interference. And he did this despite referencing his own past experiences. He described them as unjust treatment or slander.
Using personal experience there, interesting.
He pledged his government would work strictly by the law, letting the justice process operate as defined in the Constitution and laws. Equal justice for all, no framing, no malicious accusations.
Strong words.
And he committed to speeding up and disclosing processes when needed, saying actions would be based on law, not mob rule.
Law, not mob rule.
So by bringing up his own past and making such a strong pledge for judicial independence, what's the political message he's trying to send? How might that play with the Thai public?
Well, weaving his personal story, however vaguely, into that public pledge is quite striking, isn't it?
It is.
He's trying to lend weight to his promise of fairness, of non-interference. It's a significant statement in a country where, let's be honest, perceptions of judicial independence have often been debated.
Contentious.
So it's about building trust.
I think so. Projecting an image of a leader who understands what unjust treatment feels like and is therefore committed to ensuring impartiality for everyone else. It's an appeal to anyone who feels the system might have been politicized in the past. A promise of a clean break. A promise to uphold the rule of law, pure and simple. Okay. And then the really big one, perhaps. Constitutional amendment and dissolving parliament. All within that 4-month window.
Yeah, this is huge.
He acknowledged the People's Party's concerns from their earlier MOU about the Constitution. He said the government's goal is to amend the current Constitution in order to draft a new one, following existing procedures and waiting on a constitutional court ruling.
Crucial steps there, following procedure and waiting for the court.
And then, here's the real kicker. After that process, he pledged to dissolve Parliament within the agreed 4-month time frame.
Wow.
The stated purpose: to return power to the people so they can decide the country's future.
That is incredibly ambitious, drafting a whole new constitution and dissolving parliament in 4 months, given Thailand's constitutional history.
What are the deeper implications here?
Monumental, just monumental. Think about it. Thailand's had, over 20 constitutions or charters since 1932, often linked to political turmoil, military coups.
Right, it's been a constant point of change and contention.
Yeah, and the current one, brought in after military rule, has been a major flashpoint for years. Many people want a more democratic, people-focused charter.
So promising this isn't just about new elections.
No, it's a direct challenge to the existing power structure. It's signaling an intent to fundamentally rewrite the rules of the game, a democratic reset, as you called it earlier.
It's a massive political gamble, though.
Extremely high stakes. Delivering a new social contract in record time. That constitutional court ruling will be absolutely critical, setting the legal path. But if he pulls it off, it fundamentally reshapes the political landscape. It hands enormous power back to the electorate to define the future. But the if is huge. It needs extraordinary consensus, extraordinary efficiency.
That really puts the sheer scale of it into perspective. It really does sound like trying to rewrite the country's operating system on the fly. But even with this intense 4-month plan, these huge reforms, PM Anutin also sketched out a broader, longer-term vision.
Beyond the sprint.
What's the bigger picture he painted? How does this initial burst of activity fit into that? Well, he expressed confidence that these 4 months would lay a stable foundation, something for the next government to build on.
Positioning it as step one.
Exactly. Aiming for sustained well-being, security, stability for the people. And he talked about fostering national love and unity, using that as a collective force for development.
Unity is a recurring theme in Thai politics, especially after periods of division.
And his final pledge was quite solemn. Not letting the people's trust be wasted, repaying the nation with honesty, loyalty to the monarchy, and serving the people. Standard closing, perhaps, but context matters.
It does.
So how does this long-term vision, unity, stable foundations, connect back to that intense 4-month activity?
I think it's clear he's framing the sprint not as the whole race, but as that critical, high-impact first leg. The focus on love and unity is especially significant given Thailand's recent history of deep political divides. It's an appeal to move beyond partisanship.
Suggesting his government's quick actions will clear away immediate problems.
That seems to be the idea. Create a cleaner slate, a more unified, stable platform for whoever comes next to build upon. But, this raises a really important question for the longer term.
Yeah.
How do future governments build on such an intense short-term foundation? What ensures continuity? How do you make sure the successes of the sprint actually stick and become part of a sustainable national path?
That's the real challenge, isn't it? Embedding the gains beyond the initial burst. So, wow. From stabilizing the economy, managing border issues, tackling disasters and social problems, all the way to overhauling justice and the Constitution, PM Anutin's first 4 months look set to be just. A period of unprecedented activity,
Yeah.
unprecedented ambition. You've definitely got a comprehensive picture now of the intricate, demanding agenda he's laid out, all framed by that incredibly audacious timeline.
Yeah, this whole deep dive, it really underscores the immense pressure, doesn't it? And just the sheer breadth of what a new leader can take on, or at least promise to take on, committing to such rapid transformation, hitting so many fundamental areas. It sets an incredibly high bar for accountability, for public expectation.
It's a fascinating experiment in, well, accelerated governance.
It really is. And it makes you think hard about the practicalities, the challenges, delivering on something that intensive without, sacrificing depth just for the sake of speed.
Which leads us to a final thought for you to consider. Given these immense pressures, that no days off pledge is almost superhuman. How effectively can a government tackle such deeply entrenched national problems and push through massive constitutional change within such an intensely short, self-imposed deadline? And what are the potential trade-offs, really, both the good and the bad, for taking such an extraordinarily fast-paced approach to leading a nation?
Right. That is the big questions that we really have to concentrate on in the next 4 months. Thank you for following Suthichai Live English Podcast. Until the next episode.